Zombies. At the West East Mountain area, two people were hiding carefully. They were James and Michael. The two police officers were hiding behind a huge rock. They were likely to work as usual. Michael curiously asked why James had to come with him and handle the case directly. They had waited there for a long time and nearly have become meals for those mosquitoes around them. Michael had no idea why James didn't hand that case for him as usual. That must have been something shady. James replied to him that the case was not only very important but also a top dangerous case as well, so he had to come with Michael. Speaking about the case, Michael continued to ask if the chief could tell him more about the criminal they were following. Who the heck that zombie hunter they were looking for? The case's information was very confidential. Michael was the one coming and taking the case with James, but he had not much information. Up to that moment, James started to tell Michael the case's detail. In the past, there was a big case in the Ningong district. That was a tragedy in the Ningong district. There was a farmer, his family name was Brown. One day, out of the blue, he went nuts. He bit people like a crazy man. People all said that he was crazy. He was turned to evil and kept away from him or else they would get biting to death. Brown had been a weak and sick man, but suddenly, he went nuts without a clue. He got stronger than a normal person and bit people. From a skinny man who could not even walk a long distance because of shortness of breath, he was likely to become another person. He was so strong that he even could throw the young man with his one hand. Everyone who wanted to stop him out got bit and severely hurt. Once the police came there, some people had died, some severe hurt. The crime scene was horrible. Brown had become the top dangerous murderer in the town. Police had to shower him with a rain of bullets to take him down. He fell to the ground and died. But because of his abnormal change, police officers had opened another investigation to clear it out. As Brown's wife stated, a stranger who had asked to stay overnight at their house was a pharmacist. He told them that he was from the north area. That night, Brown let the pharmacist stay over. Brown was a greedy man. When the pharmacist was sleeping, he sneaked in and tended to search the pharmacist's bag to see if there was anything valuable. But he got disappointed. Nothing looked valuable. He just found a small bag of gray powder. Brown poured the weird powder out, which was really similar to flour. He put a little powder to his mouth, and shortly, he went crazy like a demon. He started to roam around biting people. Following that lead, police had tried to identify the pharmacist who stayed overnight at Brown's house that night. He was a zombie hunter from the north area. The powder he brought along was called zombie's powder. Once someone ate it, they would go nuts and attach everything they see, people or even animals. That was really dangerous. Hearing the case out, Michael was very confusing. He asked the chief what kind of powder was. How come people could make that? That was why James and Michael were standing there, in the middle of the remote mountainous area, to investigate the important case. James continued that as his trusted information, a secret agent from the terrorists wanted to send zombies to the Eastern District. They wanted to use those zombies to transport a large number of drugs from province to province. Michael could imagine what happened. The two of them stayed focused to guard the route because they had a secret report that those terrorists would come that way. A long time later, Michael realized something was coming to them. He gave James a signal. Once the two of them were discussing, in the trail, out of nowhere, they saw a thick fog flying by. In the fog, they heard a bell sound. They saw someone that was the zombie hunter, who led the zombie team. He held a bell in his hand and rang it. Sometimes, he sang a melody to lead the way for those spirits. The sound came from afar. It made the hairs on the back of people who could hear coincidentally stood up. They walked after the leader. there was a long line of zombies. That was the first time Michael could see the zombies' leader. He got surprised once seeing the crew of zombies had been controlled by someone. The zombie hunter kept ringing the bell and made it feel like a melody. The zombie crew slowly came after him as if they had been coded like a computer. Those zombies looked paralyzed. Their faces were likely bloodless. They had died, but they were walking. The zombie hunter came closer and closer. James and Michael came out and blocked his way. They shouted out that they were police officers and wanted to check every single people walked. By the way, they requested him to take off his hat and show his ID. The zombie hunter replied that he was very ugly. He would scare them out if he took off his hat. Then eventually, he took off his hat. Michael was afraid that James would be in danger, so he stepped up in between. Indeed, the zombie hunter was really ugly and looked scary. He asked them if they think he was ugly if they scare when seeing his face. His job needs an ugly face to survive. James didn't care about his question. He walked along the zombie line, then stopped by and asked him what he did for a living. Was he taking those zombies to the cemetery? James continued and went straight to whether what he said was the truth or was a drug dealer transferring the drugs. That zombie hunter didn't show any panic in his face. He saw only Michael and James there, so he smiled at them. He thought that those two people could not pair up with him and his zombies crew under his control. The zombie hunter opened his ugly mouth and replied that they already knew that that was not a big deal because the two police officers were going to die there. Then he rang the bell in his hand. The bell rang a few times, and the zombie crew behind him started to move. The bell rang faster and faster. Shortly, those lifeless dump zombies began angrily and shouted out. Those zombies leapt into Michael and James. That was not the first time Michael had been surrounding. He plunged into them like an arrow, punched in the face one of the zombies. Michael thought that punch would help knock out the skinny zombie in front of him. But he was surprised that the zombie didn't get any harm after his punch, and he was likely to get angrier. He grabbed Michael with his sharp fingernails. It was sudden to Michael that he was unable to dodge it and got a long bloody scratch. On the other hand, James was struggling with the zombies as well. They were dead bodies, but James and Michael were unable to escape from them. Those zombies were way so much stronger than them. They were senseless, invincible. The two of them stepped back and back to each other. James decided to use the gun. He shouted out and asked Michael to shoot those zombies. They were zombies in front of them were not human, so they were allowed to shoot at them. At that moment, Michael also realized that those zombies were dead bodies. They were not human, so he took out his gun from his belt as James's order. The two of them shoot at those zombies. But guns were useless in front of them as well. Those zombies got hit by the bullets but had no reaction and didn't get any wounds. Those zombies still kept walking toward them and wanted to eat them by the flesh. Michael and James were surprised by that and got a bit confused. Right after then, James realized the vital point. Those zombies had been controlled by the bell in the zombie hunter's hands. He asked Michael to buy him time there with those zombies. He would handle the hunter taking down the bell in the zombie hunter's hands to control those zombies. Then, James pointed the gun towards the zombies hunter. He proved he was the top gunner in the team who had never missed even a shot. With only one shot, the bell in the zombie hunter's hand had fell off. Once the bell fell off, those zombies stopped moving as well. They had frozen and not moved an inch. James turned to Michael, asked him if he was okay. Luckily, after the intense fight, the two police officers had no severe injuries. Michael and James came and checked every single zombie and found a large number of drugs. There would be many people who died out there if they could sell those drugs. Michael tied the zombie hunter up. James and Michael then tended to take him back to the office. Michael looked at those zombies and thought, what should he do with those zombies? He was afraid that those zombies could harm people when they awakened and would spread the zombie disease to innocent people. He asked James innocently what he should do. The two of them could not take all of them back and could not let them there, so James decided to burn them out. After those dead bodies had been cremated, the two of them took the criminal out of the mountain. They were unable to think if those zombies could make it out and transfer that amount of drug or let them populated the number of zombies. There must have been a bunch of people would be their victim. After a while, Michael took out his gun and ran ahead James. He called out his chief to be careful. In front of them, there was likely another line of zombies. James had a careful look, then gave Michael a smile. He told Michael that, not to worry, that was just a normal dead bodies line. He took the dead bodies to the burial place, which was a strange job that was not for everyone. Just someone had fated to it could work on that job. The two of them let the line pass by. Michael gave a careful look to the line. It turned out they had brought the dead bodies with bamboo sticks. Two men would bring each dead body with the bamboo sticks on their shoulder. At first glance, people were easily mistaken. Those dead bodies were walking on their own after the leader. James explained that because in the west area, the road was always in a very bad condition, they found it was really hard to bring home or move the dead bodies by carriage. The only positive way was to use manpower. And so, they even could move multiple dead bodies at the same time by using the bamboo stick as a tool. That was the popular method of bringing the dead body to the remote place, but weird for a stranger like Michael. Once the dead bodies line had passed by, the sun had been down already. James rushed Michael to take the inmate back. So that they could start to investigate the drug network, they had to see who was behind all of those weird stuff, and hopefully, there would be nothing happened on the way back. James was aware that Zombie Hunter had known some spiritual magic. He was not a simple man.